Your workforce is your largest expense, and you need to leverage technology and processes to help manage that workforce. But oftentimes, it may feel like your business needs conform to the technology or paper processes that you have in place. We offer an end-to-end workforce management platform that allows you to recruit, retain, manage, and grow your workforce from the day that you decide to hire a new employee to the day that that employee retires. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about what our workforce management platform is. It's a SaaS or cloud-based system complete with payroll, HR, and time and labor management, all on a single database. This means it essentially acts as one application that has one employee record. This means that any data that is changed in HR or payroll, for instance, is automatically changed in time and labor in real time, and all of your reports can be run in real time as well. You'll see in our demonstration that you'll be able to access this information in the database and run reports based on the data that you need when you need it. But I also want to make an additional point, that the platform is modular, so you only have to access what you need. So if you're just in the market for payroll, HR, or time and labor management, or any combination of the three, you can utilize only what you need. Our customers have told us that we've really built an enterprise-level solution that is available on a small to mid-sized business budget. So without further ado, I'd like to dive right in and show you what you can do with our workforce management platform. We will be looking at the system from the perspective of the employee's life cycle. We will begin by diving into the onboarding process. We will then look at some of the typical self-service features made available to an employee. Next, we will review some of the approval processes and reporting capabilities available in the system from the manager's perspective. And finally, we will wrap up with the administrator's point of view, where we will run through the payroll process. With all that being said, allow me to pull up our sample recruitment site. You can use the recruitment module to post job openings directly onto your website or any other job board, allowing candidates to apply for those positions using the candidate self-service features. As you can see, a candidate can search job openings directly from the bottom of the screen. Now, rather than narrowing down our search further, we will just view all of the available job openings for this particular company. Let's take a look at our executive position. A candidate can view the job description from this screen and decide whether or not they would like to apply for the position. Candidates will be directed to a login screen that will require them to create a username and password to log in and apply for that job. I'm going to log in as an existing user so that we can take a look at an application that has already been completed. I want to start by bringing your attention to the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Here, a candidate can see their status within the hiring process. Now, as a new candidate completes their application, they will simply need to enter in their information within these tabs across the top. They can enter in their contact information, upload their resume, identify their job categories, skills, work experience, their education, EEO information, and their references. And ultimately, they will be able to review all of the information that they entered here on the summary screen. Once they have verified the accuracy of their application, they can then apply for that job, and an email notification can be set up to go out to the hiring manager to let them know that the application has been submitted. And all of the information gathered here on the application will flow into the applicant tracking system seamlessly. Now, many companies use background screening services prior to hiring an employee. Our platform has an integration to complete a background check right through the system. A candidate can access their portal to sign off on the background check authorization form, and once the authorization form has been submitted using the employee's electronic signature, the hiring manager would be able to order that background check through the system, and the results will also display within the system for easy access. Now that our candidate has finished their application, let's take a look at the applicant tracking side of things. Here on the login screen, I'm going to log in as Kathy, our hiring manager. When we log in, we can see that there is a dashboard screen enabled, which is a great way to access certain areas of the system that the employees use most frequently. A dashboard can be configured for each individual employee based on their role and the types of things that they need to access within the system. As you can see, I have a tab enabled just for recruitment purposes so that Kathy can easily manage the hiring process. You'll also notice that Kathy has a list of quick links that will allow her to navigate through various areas of the system using these hyperlinks that are being displayed, which are configurable based on the employee's role. She also has a window enabled which shows the hiring manager all of the new applications that have come through. There is a quick find tool which will allow the user to type in certain keywords, such as a certain skill set or certification that they desire, and the results will display below. Now let's take a look at our applicant's information. The first screen that we come to is the Main tab. Remember, all of the information captured from the candidate will flow into the applicant tracking system seamlessly. From this screen, you will be able to navigate the applicants through the different hiring stages, from the time the account was created all the way through the hiring process. Given that every company's needs are different, these hiring stages are completely configurable. Now you can see that our candidate is currently in the interview stage, and we have the ability to track those interviews under the Communications tab. All of the details around this interview will be stored here, and there's even a notes area which will allow the hiring manager to jot down notes from the interview to access at any time. Once the interview has been scheduled, you can easily email the candidate a confirmation email by using the email button at the bottom of the screen. You'll have the option of drafting an email on the fly or adding a predetermined email template. And as you can see, we've created an email template that we can send to all of the candidates that move on to this phase of the interview process. The platform allows you to create as many different email templates as you need. Essentially, you can have a separate email template for each stage of the hiring process to alert the candidate of where they stand within the process. Now let's fast forward a little bit and let's say that we're looking to hire this person. This will open a new window that will allow you to enter in the necessary information to get this person hired successfully. Notice that certain fields such as their name and their address have already been populated for you. This is pulling directly from their applicant tracking information. You'll simply need to fill out the remaining required information to hire the applicant. I do want to take a moment to talk about how the address works in conjunction with our tax engine. Our system uses geospatial technology to determine what taxes should be applied. It will look at the employee's home address as well as the company's address to determine the appropriate taxes. It is intuitive enough to calculate down to the local taxes, as well as taking into account the reciprocity agreements between states in regards to taxes. This means you don't have to maintain any tax tables, which ensures compliance by eliminating the chance for manual errors. You also have the ability to verify the Social Security number for the employee through the Social Security Administration if you choose to, and it will determine if the Social Security number matches the employee's name. This is especially important at year-end because a large cause of corrected W-2s is caused by inaccurate Social Security numbers. This will provide those checks and balances for you immediately upon hire. Let's take a look at how this would work. I'm going to simply enter in a Social Security number here, and then search the Social Security Administration's database to determine if this is a valid Social Security number for the employee. Now my result showed up as failed, and that's because I simply entered in the numbers 1 through 9, so that's not a valid number, but you are hoping for a verified result here. You will then need to enter in the remaining information here, such as the base compensation and a few other items. For example, you will need to determine the security profile, which will identify what types of features and functionalities that you want that employee to have access to. And after you've identified all of the required information, you will have successfully hired the employee. Now let's take a quick look at an employee's record. Remember, there is one employee record across all applications. When we enter the employee's record, we start here on the Main tab. This is where you can assign or change profiles that have been assigned to the employee. You can also designate who their manager is, review their accrual balances, and access their account contacts. I want to focus a little bit more under the HR tab just to give you an idea of the different things that we can track within the system. For example, a lot of companies today want to keep the employee's record paperless, and there is the ability to scan all paper documents and store them within the employee's record for easy access. We can also track assets that have been issued to an employee, such as laptops, cell phones, office keys, and so on. A differentiator here is that the system is intuitive enough to look back to the employee's record during the termination process and will prompt the user to make sure that those assets have been returned. Workers' claims can be stored here within the employee's record as well. The information collected within this area will be populated on the OSHA log, which will help streamline the process. The system has the ability to store a wide range of data to fit your needs. Every company is unique and they might have special tracking needs. The ability to create custom fields to fit your needs is also a differentiator here. Under the HR custom tables, you can create up to 5 different custom fields and capture the data within these fields that can be pulled into the different HR reports. We can actually take that concept one step further by creating custom screens to track specific data elements unique to you. An unlimited number of inventory items can be created based on your unique tracking needs, from tracking awards to even tracking the employee's pet information. Let's dive in and take a look at the awards to see how this can benefit you. We'll just dive into one of these awards in further detail. Now, within each inventory item, you can create an unlimited number of custom fields, and all of the data captured here is reportable. You can also add any notes or upload supporting documentation, such as a copy of the nomination form. Remember, any documents that you attach to an employee will be stored within their employee record for easy access. This is just another example of how flexible our system is and that you can track virtually anything. Now let's move on and take a look at the typical self-service features made available to an employee. I'm going to log in as Josh, our newly hired employee. When I log in, the first screen that he sees is his dashboard, where he has access to items such as company announcements, which will display global messages visible by all company employees. A to-do list can be enabled to display the items that a particular person is responsible to complete. And the Quick Links section allows an employee to navigate through the system using these hyperlinks listed here, which is a convenient alternative to using the menu options located at the top of the screen to navigate the system. What's great is that when you're hiring a new employee, you're able to put your standard process within our new hire checklist and streamline the onboarding process. We can view the complete checklist by clicking on the magnifying glass. As you can see, Kathy was responsible for completing the first few items on the checklist. Josh is only responsible for the items that are listed as waiting on Josh Bronson. You'll notice that Josh is required to review his handbook. In this case, we have attached a copy of that handbook right here for easy access. Once he has reviewed the handbook, he can mark this item as completed. You'll notice that a confirmation is required. That means that he is required to acknowledge that he has reviewed the handbook by signing off using his electronic signature. Once he has checked off an item, it will be stamped with the date and the time of completion here on the right-hand side. The checklist also indicates that Josh is required to complete a couple of his new hire forms. What's a really nice feature is the ability to complete certain paper forms like the I-9 forms electronically. This is great because if you ever need to reference these forms again, you can easily access the electronic record. Let's take a look at how the platform enables you to do this. So we're going to create a new I-9 form from our Quick Links area, and you'll notice that this works just like the paper form. The system has already filled out the employee's address, their date of birth, and social security number, as this data is being pulled from his employee record. Essentially, Josh is simply responsible for attesting to his employment eligibility and submitting the appropriate documentation to back that up. Signing off on this form using his electronic signature, the form will be submitted to the appropriate person within the company for approval. That person would then be responsible for reviewing the identification documentation provided by the employee and would be responsible for completing Section 2 of this form. If the administrator would like to upload a scanned copy of the documentation, they have the ability to do so. Once the I-9 form has been approved, you can run this employee through E-Verify, which is integrated within our system. E-Verify is required by a number of states and federally contracted companies to determine if the employee is authorized to work within the United States. By having this integrated into our system, this allows you to capture all of the information from the I-9 form and populate it within E-Verify with the results appearing through the system as well. Now, why don't we take a look at the withholding forms next? You can see that he has submitted his W-4 form already, but let's take a look at what it would look like if he wanted to add a new one. You'll notice that you have the choice between the federal form or the different state forms. The state forms are automatically made available by looking at the employee's home address and the company's address. Now let's take a look at the completed federal form, as it's the same universal form for everybody. This works the same way as the paper form. He'll simply need to complete his worksheet, and once he's ready to submit it, he will need to provide his electronic signature. The information collected on this electronic form will automatically update within the system upon approval, eliminating the manual process. Now, we've taken a look at the forms that come standard within the system, but you also have the ability to create an unlimited number of custom forms to meet your business needs. These forms can be tracked and stored within the system, allowing your HR department to go completely paperless. Let's take a look at an example. You can have as many custom forms enabled here as you need. In this case, we're going to take a look at the Employee of the Month nomination form. The employee would be able to complete this form and then submit the form for review upon completion. This platform will allow you to streamline the open enrollment process as well. Employees have the ability to enroll in their benefits online, eliminating the need for paper enrollment forms. The enrollment data can be captured electronically and stored against the employee's record for reporting purposes. I also want to point out that you can determine what benefits will be made available to who. For example, if you have multiple locations, you can offer different benefits to each group of people. This feature can be used for open enrollment or life change events, and the screen would be the same for both. In this case, let's say that Josh is going to start the open enrollment process. We are first brought to the Instructions tab, which is completely configurable based on your business needs, and each tab across the top represents a different type of benefit plan. For each of the benefits, we have the option of waiving the coverage if we choose to. We can also review and compare plans and make a selection. Now, if we want to dig into the plan in a little bit further detail, we can do so by clicking on the magnifying glass on the left-hand side. And as you can see, this will allow the employee to review the plan features, such as the copay amounts, the deductibles, as well as the out-of-pocket limits. You can also upload a copy of the plan documentation for the employees to have access to right here at their fingertips as they're looking to make a decision. Now let's say that we're looking to compare the employee-only plans. We're going to pull up a nice side-by-side comparison of the two of them so that we can make a more informed decision on what plan we should move forward with. We can then make our selection and move on to the next tab. The same process will apply to the dental insurance option. However, this time I'm going to waive the coverage. Now let's move on to the life insurance selection. Here we have set up an age-based deduction amount based on the coverage that they select. You also have the ability to require an evidence of insurability form to be uploaded from this screen if you choose to. I'm going to go ahead and make a selection and move on to the flexible spending account. For the flexible spending, you have the ability to enter any dollar amount that you choose. I'll enter $500. And you'll see that this will automatically update the deduction based on the pay frequency. So I'll make my selection and move on. Once an employee has elected all of the coverage that they would like, they can then confirm their selections. On this screen, you will be required to add a beneficiary or dependent if necessary before submitting the request for approval. As we can see, we need to add our beneficiary for our life insurance plan. We can do so by clicking on the Select Beneficiary button here on the bottom of the screen, and we can select the appropriate person from this list. Now we're able to submit our request, and as a last step in the process, we are asked to review our selections one last time and sign off on it using our unique system password. Once we do that, the benefits are going to be pushed out to the appropriate person for review and approval, and once approved, the deductions will be created and come into play based on the effective dating set up for those selected plans. Also, we have a third-party integration that will provide carrier connection services. This will automatically send the carriers all of the updates based on the frequency that you've set up. Let's take a quick look at how Josh would track his time in the system. This is one of 10 timesheet formats available in the system, so there are several options with regards to how an employee could enter their time. In addition, we can work with a variety of different hardware devices, which range from a simple swipe clock to biometric devices. Employees can also track their time using the mobile app as well. The timesheet that we're looking at is the strictest of all of the available timesheet formats. It uses the server time, which is located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and it will also adjust for the different time zones. Employees can clock in and out using these buttons here on the top of the screen, and by clicking on the Change Department button, a predetermined list will appear for which Josh can make a selection. We can see that the system automatically clocks him out of the first department and into the next one. Now, of course, this button can be configured to meet your needs, whether you're tracking departments, tasks, or even locations. There are other timesheet features that employees can be given access to. One is the ability to leave notes. Employees can jot down notes to their manager about something that occurred on a particular day, and an email notification can be sent out to that manager prompting them to review the note. The system also allows an employee to allocate dollar amounts to specific categories and can include this information within the system. As an example, let's say that Josh goes to a client site for an in-person meeting and stops along the way for gas. We can see that Josh will be able to track those reimbursements here under the Reimbursements tab. He would be able to assign those expenses to a specific department, a pay category, as well as enter in the dollar amount. In addition to simply accurately tracking the expenses, Josh has also uploaded a copy of the receipt for review so that he can keep that whole process paperless. Lastly, this entry can also be set up so that it must be approved by a manager during the timesheet approval process. Once it's been approved, the extra pay will flow over into payroll. Employees can request time off through the system by using our automated time off tool. The Request Time Off section contains 3 parts: the Request tool, the time off balances, and the recent requests. Let's select a vacation day for our example, and then we can choose the date by selecting full day increments, partial day start-stop, partial day bulk, or multiple day increments. Let's go ahead and choose a full day. And the system may be configured to require that a comment be added. Let's say that we're taking the kids to the zoo. Now, once this request has been submitted, an email notification can be generated to go out to the manager, prompting them to log in and review the request. Under the Balances window, the color-coded feature alerts approvers whether the employee has authorized time available. If enough time is authorized, a pending request would be reflected in green. If not, the requested time off would appear in red. You can also prevent a request from going through if it would bring an employee into the negative balance. I also want to mention that the system can be easily configured to enable blackout dates and prevent employees from even being able to request time off during predetermined blackout dates. The last items we will look at from an employee's perspective is their pay statements and their W-2s. The pay statement screen works very much like a report where the employee has the ability to filter for a specific date range. All of their historical pay statements can be viewed from this screen as well. If the employee wanted to see a copy of their pay statement, they would simply click on the pay statement icon, and we'll be able to see the pay statement along with a stub displaying their earnings, their taxes withheld, their company paid benefits, their timesheet information, their accrual balances, and you can also display global and/or individual messages to the employee. Josh also has the ability to download a PDF version of his pay statement if needed. Now let's take a look at his W-2s. The W-2s are shown here in a report format as we saw with the pay statements. If Josh needed to take a look at the W-2 issued, he could go ahead and click on the preview icon. Josh can also download the W-2 as a PDF format to print it out or to save it for his records. Now let's move into looking at the system from more of a manager's perspective. To do this, we're going to log in as Paul Peterson, the manager of our company. And you'll notice that Paul has a much more extensive dashboard enabled. Remember, each dashboard can be configured to meet each individual user's needs. In this case, Paul's dashboard is geared more towards his managerial duties and puts all of the information that he needs to know about his employees right at his fingertips. As you can see, he has a window enabled which will display all of the time off requests that are still pending approval. He also has a list of quick links that take him to the items that he accesses most frequently. He also can view a dot board to see who's in the office and out of the office at any given point throughout the day. This is beneficial to an office admin since they're the ones receiving calls all day inquiring as to whether somebody is available or not. The blue pin represents that they are clocked out, while the red indicates that they're clocked in. This information is available in real time if the employees are clocking in using the web or an Ethernet device. He also has the ability to keep track of exceptions such as who's tardy or absent. This report is color-coded for easy identification. Now, if anybody has a missing punch, this can also be displayed on the dashboard, where a manager can then drill down into the employee's timesheet to go in and make a correction. Now let's close out a few open items that we started on the employee side, such as approving the time off. Here you can see the time off request that we submitted for Josh, displaying right here on the dashboard. As the manager, Paul needs to understand a few things in order to make a more informed decision as to whether or not Josh should get his time off approved. With that said, first Paul can click on what looks like an hourglass icon to see if Josh has a positive balance, which is the case here based on the green color coding listed. Now that Paul knows that Josh does have enough time authorized for the request, he will need to find out if there are any other employees out on the same day that Josh is requesting off. For this, Paul can turn to the Date Requested column. Here he will be able to see if there are any other employees authorized off on the same day that Josh is requesting. In this case, there are 2 employees already authorized off on that day, which is indicated by the 2 in parentheses. The date is a hyperlink which will allow Paul to drill down in and see who the other employees are. Now he'll be able to make a more informed decision as to whether he should let Josh have the day off. Once he's ready, he can go ahead and approve the request using the green flag here. The system will prompt him for a comment. And now the status of the request will be sent back to the employee through an email notification along with a comment that we entered. So we have closed the requesting time off cycle, and now let's move on to taking a look at how a manager would review and approve the timesheets. Remember, we have a missing punches window on the dashboard that will allow the manager to review any missing punches that have come through. We want to make sure that we correct this missing punch for Josh before we move forward. You can see that Josh did not clock out at the end of the day. However, he did leave us a note, which is indicated on the notepad with the green check mark. We can see that he did leave at 3 p.m., and we can go ahead and enter that onto the timesheet. Now all of the changes that we made will be captured within an audit trail. The audit trail will be able to tell us the old value, the new value, who made the change and when the change was made, as well as the IP address that it was made from. So back on the dashboard, we can now move forward with approving the remaining timesheets by clicking on the timesheet approval link. This will bring us a list of all of the timesheets that we need to approve, and we can approve them all at once or on an individual basis by using the green flag at the bottom of the screen. Once approved, this will then be passed on to the next approver if there is workflow available, and there are up to 5 different levels of workflow available for the timesheet approval process. Now that we have closed out the cycle of reviewing and approving the timesheets, we can take a look at how Paul can run reports on the employees that he manages. The report that we're going to be looking at is the Detailed Hours Report. On the top of this report, you'll notice a few filters. One of them being the Employees filter that will allow you to sort by specific employees. Underneath that, we have the Timesheet Dates filter where you can sort by a pay period, a calendar range, or a date range. Now I want to show you how easy it is to customize this report to get it just the way that you want it. You can easily add columns by going to the Tools drop-down and selecting Columns. On the right-hand side, you can see all of the columns that are currently being displayed in your report, and on the left-hand side are all of the available columns that you can report off of. You can use the search box here at the top to search this list for the column that you want to bring in. So let's say that we want to bring in the hourly rate. We'll type in the first couple of letters, and you can see the hourly pay column now will be displayed. We can move it into our report using our green arrows, and once we're satisfied, we can go ahead and select the columns. Now we can see the hourly pay is being displayed within our report. We also have the ability to group this report by layers or hide columns. The G at the top of each column represents Group By, while the X represents Hide. So now let's group our report by the department, and you'll notice that there is a subtotal at the bottom of each department, which will display the total number of hours worked within that department for the time frame that we've specified in our Timesheet Dates filter up above. Now the reporting is flexible so that you can also create custom calculations or rename columns if needed. Once you've set up this report the way that you need it, you can save those settings by going to the Tools drop-down and select Save Settings. Now every time you go into this report, you'll be able to have it appear in this format. You can also export this report into 6 different export formats. We can get it out in CSV, Excel, PDF, HTML, XML, and text. You do have the ability to customize any report in our system the same way. You can also set up each report to auto-run and be emailed automatically to your inbox as an add-on feature. Now let's log in as Kathy to take a look at the administrator's point of view. As we can see here, you can have announcements displayed on the top of the dashboard to act as reminders to the employees. It looks like we need to review the performance reviews for a moment. In the system, you have the ability to set up to 6 levels of workflow for performance reviews and identify who would be responsible for each step. In our example, let's take a look at how to finalize a review. I'm going to select this review that's in progress for Henry. And as you can see, there were 3 levels of workflow set up for this performance review, and every review level has a percentage attached to it. Henry's self-review counts as 10% of his total ranking, whereas his manager's review of him counts at 75%. Henry is being reviewed on his core values, his company competencies, and his company goals. When taking a look at the final ranking, you will notice that it's taking into account all of the different variables, and the system is intuitive enough to determine the final weighted average for each review. From this screen, Kathy can enter in additional comments. She can also put in the dates that the employees received or signed their review. You also have the ability to enter pay increases and use effective dating so that this increase will not go into effect until the specified date. You can also enter in a new job title or a bonus if the review triggers it. There is also the ability to perform a compensation analysis directly from this screen to ensure that your increase is in line with industry standards. This will help in retaining current employees as well as attracting new talent. We can access the pay scale compensation data from the bottom of this screen. The job title is populated based on the employee that you've selected. You will then be prompted to enter in the number of years of experience as well as the location. Once the results have been retrieved, a PDF file will appear that you can download. As you can see, this is going to be a true time saver. This is a high-level overview of the results which can be printed out and shared with the manager or decision maker. This report contains a snapshot of the labor market for this position. It has many graphs, but the most significant one is the hourly rate by experience. Back at the dashboard, you can see that we have a list of our open payrolls. Using the Payroll Quick Links icon, I can access my payroll prep process, which outlines the items that need to be completed in a checklist type of format. The payroll admin would be able to address each step by clicking on the hyperlinks, and once it's been completed, it can be checked off and the date and the time and who completed the step will be stamped on the right-hand side of the screen. The first step is to go to the time prep process. This helps the admin make sure that all of the time and labor data collected throughout the pay period is ready before it's taken into account for payroll. Once this process is completed, we can easily go back to the pay prep process using this last link here listed. Syncing the time will put all of the data reviewed and approved for the time prep process that we just looked at and put it into a batch for you to work with. The next step is to review the batch. This is the batch that the payroll admin would use to enter in their data. You will notice that I'm able to move around this grid using my keyboard, not my mouse, so all of my Excel hotkeys and shortcuts can be used here, which provides for easier navigation. In addition, when I rest on a cell, a yellow window appears which lets me know what row I'm on and column I'm on so that I know exactly where I am in the grid at all times. And this comes in especially handy if you have many columns across the top or different rows so that you never get lost. Now let's talk about how we would go about editing our batch. We have the concept of payroll alerts, which can be set up globally or on an individual basis using effective dating. These alerts can even require a sign-off to ensure that nothing gets overlooked during the payroll process. A global alert might be set up to flag when an employee is being paid over a certain dollar amount, while an individual alert might be set up to remind a user of something that needs to be done on that particular pay period. To view the alert, we will simply click on the icon. In this case, there is an individual alert that has been set up to remind the user to enter in a bonus for Paul. This alert does require a sign-off. Without signing off on this alert, we will not be able to submit our payroll for finalization. With that being said, let's sign off on our alert now, and then we will enter in the bonus within the batch. To enter in Paul's bonus, we want to add $500 under the bonus supplemental column. I want to point out that we've kept the bonus on the same pay statement as the regular earnings, and the system is intuitive enough to know to tax the regular earnings at the regular tax rate, while it taxes the bonus at the supplemental tax rate, keeping everything on one check. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could easily separate these two into two separate checks by adding a row and selecting the appropriate pay statement type. Now let's save and update our payroll to save those changes that we just made. As the batch is saved and updated, calculations are being applied in real time so that we can review the pay statements and also run our payroll reports such as the payroll register and any other reports with no need for the traditional pre-process. If we take a look at Paul's pay statement, you'll notice that it looks very much like the pay statement that I showed you from the employee self-service section. The difference here is that we're seeing this before the payroll has been processed. You'll notice that the bonus that we just entered is already listed here on the pay stub. So we can take a look at how the bonus will affect the taxes and take a look at what their net pay would be. Under the Payroll Quick Links button, we will be able to run some of the payroll reports as I had mentioned. First, let's take a look at the payroll register. Once again, the information that's being displayed on the payroll register is pulling from the batch for this current payroll in real time. From this report, you can also access the employee's pay statements, as well as taking a look at the employee's record to make any permanent changes to their payroll settings. If you needed to update their deductions or their direct deposit information, you could go ahead and do so from here. And once you've made those changes and those changes have been saved, you can hit the previous screen button and this will take you back to your payroll register. Next, I'd like to take a look at the general ledger, which we can access again under the Payroll Quick Links. And here is an example of the general ledger report. As I had shared earlier, just like other reports that we've seen, there are several different export formats available, including Excel or QuickBooks. The last report that I'd like to show you is the Payroll Recap and Funding Report. Here we can see the payroll overview, which includes the number of paid employees, the employee payment information, including the total check amount and the total direct deposits as well. You can also take a look at the tax liability, the vendor liabilities, the totals, the cash requirements. We also have a general ledger summary and a couple of visuals such as the comparison from this pay period to last pay period and the rolling 12-month payroll view. Now let's go back to our payroll prep checklist. So we've already taken a look at our batch, and the next item on our checklist is the option to add or edit the pay statements. This will bring up a list of all of the employees and will allow you to make edits to their individual pay statements rather than working within the grid. Next, we need to make sure that we've reviewed all of our payroll alerts before we can close and submit our payroll. The next step is to close the payroll, and if there were any errors, they would be flagged in this step. After the payroll has been closed, the payroll can be submitted for finalization and delivery. Before we conclude, I think that it's important to share why businesses like yours are typically looking for a workforce management solution. They're typically trying to either control labor costs, minimize compliance risk, improve productivity, drive operational efficiencies, or simply foster continuous improvement of their business. We're able to help businesses achieve these goals by providing them with a solution to assist them with saving on payroll expenses, eliminating administrative waste, remaining compliant and avoiding lawsuits and settlements, reducing absenteeism, streamlining and reducing turnover, reducing overtime, standardizing and controlling company expansion, and finding growth opportunities through big data. The world is constantly changing and the competitive landscape in every industry is continuing to evolve, so we provide the technology to help you access this platform at any time, from anywhere, on any device. So don't let your technology and systems hold you back anymore. We can show you how you can recruit, retain, manage, and grow your workforce in one simple way, on a cloud-based, end-to-end workforce management platform that has been proven across the spectrum of small to mid-sized businesses ranging from just a few to a few thousand employees. And it won't take you long to get up and running because there are no installation, maintenance, or IT resources required. It's time to open the door to your workforce's potential, and we can help. Thank you for your time, and please contact us today to learn more.